Hello and welcome. I'm John with Internetic. So I wanted to show you how a phishing attack actually works. We spend a lot of time showing how to identify them, how to avoid them, and what they look like after it's done, but we don't usually show how these steps actually go through from receiving the attack to running it through it to the attacker actually taking advantage of whatever they've gotten. So in this, I'm going to show you both the victim's view and the attacker's view. So as I go through this, keep an eye out for test please ignore. That is our lab system. So this is a real web server, a real email server, and I actually am accessing these systems. So these are not just a simulation. While they are in a simulated environment, these servers actually do exist. The web server is there. You can access testpleaseignore.com, and it really exists. The mail I'm going to access actually is Office Outlook Mail. So these are all full systems. The attack I built took me probably about 2 hours realistically to set it up. So these are not hard to set up. I basically took someone else's attack that I found from one of our clients. I cleaned it up, fixed some errors, and repurposed it for my own use. So that is not an unusual thing. It is actually pretty common for attackers to buy their attack kits. They don't have to make their own. There's a full commodity market for whatever they want, from buying credentials called access brokers up to support people that will help them install it and how to handle it through PayPal, or not PayPal, sorry, through payment gateways to handle like the Bitcoin transfers, and people who actually develop and sell these attacks. In this case, I just saw this one as like this will make a good use for this video. So this is going to be a multi-step attack. You're going to see kind of 4 steps here that kind of lead into each other. The first part is I'm going to get their credentials. Then we're going to compromise their business email, called a business email compromise. And we're going to do a wire transfer, and we're going to try to set up follow-up attacks. So as we go through this, keep an eye out for each of these steps, and you're going to see how easy it is to fall prey to one of these and kind of what you need to look out for. So as we're going through as the victim, I'm going to be the victim. I'm not going to be saying, look for this, look for this. Just watch as we go through and try to point out things and post in the comments or tell or email me or something what you catch out. So as we'll start. Hi, I'm Albert. I'm doing my job, obviously. Not just sitting here playing Tetris. And, oh, we got an email. Okay, what's going on? Let's see what's going on here. Okay, I got an email from John. Internetic. So I got an invoice past due. That's not great. Okay, let's make sure we get this paid off. Let's go view. Yeah, office.com login. That looks all right. Yeah, okay, looks good. It's time. Test. Please ignore.com. Okay. Next. Okay, password equals mass time. They always make this password so hard. Okay, uppercase, lowercase, punctuation, all that stuff. Okay, good. Let's log in. Oh, that's not good. It's expired, so I guess I gotta call them and get a new one. Okay, I'll give them a call and we'll figure that out. And I'm John the bad guy. You can tell because I like to stroke my beard in a menacing way. Anyway, so I've got this phishing site out there, and it looks like I've got credentials coming in. I got Elastic email here, just so I can get the emails from my phishing site. Now I got a few hits here, 9. Let's see what we got coming in. Scroll down. I like this because I got all these nice little credentials flowing. So A. Einstein gave me their credentials. I know it's an office one because they signed into my fake SharePoint site. All right, let's try it and see what we got. All right. No 2FA. Great. I like that. 2FA would slow me down, but none of that, so I'm good to go. Okay, let's see. Let me go to this person's email a little bit here. Hey, you got anything good? Well, so we've got our invoice here. This is one we sent. We can actually use this. So it's kind of living off the land here. Don't show that. Yeah, they're always showing that stuff. Okay. Let's see. So you got some stuff in here. Some emails back and forth between the people in this company, talking back and forth. Great. So let's send this over and make some money off this. Okay. Who we got in our to list here? Okay. Let's send this to Nicola. Okay. I like this because we logged into their Outlook. We actually had their signature and all their stuff already, and we can look at their emails to make it look like we can understand their way of speaking, so we can become them. Okay. They call him Nicola? Yeah, I think the email said his name was Nicola. Okay, let's go with it. He's pretty picky about punctuation. Okay. Actually, let's do wire. That is my wire code. Not really. So what I'm doing here is because I'm in their mail account, I don't want them emailing this guy, or I don't want them calling this guy because he's going to be like, what are you talking about? But because I'm in here, I can intercept it. Okay. Been meetings all day. Looks good. It looks good. So we're going to send this off to Nicola, and hopefully they'll send them money. So I can do is now I can also use whatever else I got in here. So I can send emails out as this person, to their vendors, to their customers, whatever. I'm going to sit here and just watch for a bit. So I'm not going to delete this. Well, I'm going to delete this sent item. So no record of that one going out. That should be good. So I've hopefully in a bit, Nicole will send me my money. And I can use this to make some more money, or I can pass the credential off to someone else and make some more money off that. It's a good day for Attacker John. So we've seen how it looks from both the attacker and the victim's point of view. So let's walk through how this attack actually works. In this case, a fake John Miller sent this invoice. They're using spoofing, any number of different ways. Hopefully they didn't get my credentials. This is simulation, so I know they didn't. But they could have, or more likely a spoof because someone doesn't have their DMARC or SPS set up correctly, and they got this email. It looks legit on its face. Do you mouse over? And it shows this. So at a glance, office.com looks correct. What you need to do is you look all the way through to where it says testpleaseignore.com. So what I've done is me as the simulated attacker, my domain, testpleaseignore.com, is the real domain. If you go to testpleaseignore.com, it really exists. And I built a long subdomain and then office.com. So that when people look across, they immediately go, office.com looks good. All this other stuff is probably just login information. Nope, my domain is way up at the top. So they're going to click into it. So realistically, this test environment does not have all the protections you would normally have. When I was setting this up, I had to put it in test environment because everything else was locking this thing down left and right. Mail filters, DNS filters, all the heuristics and everything were getting in my way. So in a well-built, well-secured environment, things like DKIM, SPF, DMARC, your DNS filter, your mail filter, your firewalls, your basically everything in the way will prevent this from, well, each step can prevent this from happening. So that's why you have security layers. You don't believe that any one layer will prevent it. You're like, I have a firewall, I'm good to go. It prevents from everything. It really doesn't. It prevents you from a specific type of attack or something. But there's always people trying to find ways around that. So we have layers of where even if it gets past the SPF checks, even if it gets past the DMARC checks, even if it gets past the DKIM checks, the mail filter still go, this looks like it's bad. Even if it gets past the mail filter, we still have a DNS filter that goes, hey, you clicked on the site, this site is known to be bad or looks bad or has some sort of characteristic, being it is too new, it looks weird, is known for having weird traffic, or even Chrome is good about it. It'll say office.com, that's probably a fake. They're trying to do something bad here, and it'll alert you to that as well. Every step of the way, these sections will normally block this from happening. In this case, I actually set this up as a simulation environment, while being a real environment is not behind all the protections that we would normally deploy. It's got some of them. So things like antivirus still in place, but antivirus protects you from viruses, not emails. We have a firewall in place. A firewall protects you against network-based attacks, not against an email or you doing something that it looks like it's supposed to be there. So when I built this, I actually set it up so that this sends an email out using a JavaScript mailer. So it kind of lives inside this, so it doesn't actually running on a server. But there is a website, but all the attack stuff is actually run on your own browser. So something like NoScript, while inconvenient, it actually does prevent this from working. Surprisingly, the firewall doesn't seem to block this one because of how the way I'm sending it out, but it's a good thing to have in place. So I built this to run through a JavaScript mailer and through Elastic Email. And originally I had it sending to a Gmail account, but actually it turned out I didn't need it because it was easier to send it through my Elastic mailer that I showed a second ago. So I paused real quick so I could pull this up without showing off my desktop and all that. So this is Elastic Email. It is a free service to use. I'm not picking on them. It just happened to be what I picked to do this attack. So normally what you would do is use this Elastic Email to send or relay emails to someone, like Constant Contact or HubSpot or any number of other services that do this sort of thing. What I found was it made it easier for me because I didn't need to send an actual email to anyone because I would send to my own email, and that my actual filters were blocking me from doing this, which is getting really inconvenient for what I was doing here. I was like, hey, I just an email log. I don't need to get the email. I can just click into here and it has this nice little thing. It says, here is the information of the password and everything you need. So that made my life a lot easier for this. We go back up to the attack. When you go through, this actually does some basic verifications to make sure that they are giving a legit-ish looking email address. And it does some very basic password verification. It's not actually checking if the password works or anything. It's just saying, is it not blank? Is it greater than 6? Just kind of increasing the probability that someone's going to give me a real password. Keep in mind, there are phishing attacks that will check your password and will check for 2FA. I did not build this one this way just because I didn't need to, because it has made it more expedient for what I'm doing. But there are ways of doing like a reverse proxy to where it legitimately does check your password against Microsoft servers and hands you off to them after it gets those credentials, or it does send your 2FA, MFA codes through to make sure that it actually gets those credentials so they can get into your stuff. In this case, I decided not to, just because it made sense for this attack to not do that. So we give the credentials, new login. So this is kind of a kiss-off I set up so that when the average person clicks on this, I don't want them as the attacker calling their IT department saying, hey, or calling Internetic in this case, and saying, hey, this thing's saying my password is disabled or my something has happened here. Can you look into it? Because as soon as IT or Internet becomes involved, I know they're probably going to get to this person and reset their password if they're doing their job right before me as attacker can get in there and do things. Because I'm not sitting there watching attacks. I'm waiting until I get a bunch of them. I'm running through them in my own time. I'm not just sitting at the keyboard like, oh my God, I have to wait for this attack to come in so I can do stuff. If I'm new, maybe I am. But for well-established attacks or attackers and their business enterprise, they're getting 1,000 of these, or probably more than that. They're getting thousands of these a day. They're not just watching it. They're going to take those credentials and hand them off to someone who's actually going to do something with them. That's where I talk about the attacks being commoditized. It's pretty rare that someone's just going to go like, yeah, I'm going to get this attack and take it and do stuff with it. There are different groups that focus on different tasks or different, trying to think the right word for it, different business elements, different departments, I guess, different flows. There's probably a better word for this. I'll think of it later. Anyway, so I would hit this phishing site, grab a few thousand of these credentials, and go online and sell them. And whoever bought these from me will go in and actually use these for a business email compromise, a BEC, where they log into your email and do things with it, like set up a wire transfer or watch your email so they can take advantage of that in some way, either through espionage or IP theft, or if they think of the things that someone can do if they have access to your business email. The number of the amount of information, the sensitive information, your personal details, because I've seen a lot of people that use their work email for their personal stuff, or use your credentials, you recycle credentials to where you have a password and you have username and password combination used for work, and you also use for your personal Gmail. You also use for a bank website. You also use for your Netflix website. You also use for your doctor's website. So that's why you don't want to do that. So what I've actually set up in this particular case, getting back on topic, was when they go through, it's just going to say, this invoice has expired. So I don't want them calling their IT group. I want them calling me. I say, call us at this. So I can actually do a second layer of attack. So I can pivot off this and not just getting into their email. I can have them call me, and now I can gain access to the computer directly. Or I can make a secondary flow of cash somehow by saying, yeah, you've got some weird stuff going on here. Let us take care of that for you while I'm installing backdoors of some variety or doing some more nastiness and better establishing my control over this environment. So, looking at the top here, we're going to look at this a little bit. You can see where test please ignore. That is the actual domain in use. So, just so you all can see that. This is obviously is using lorem ipsum. So it is a website I set up just for honeypots, just to get people to click into it, just so I have something there. So that is the actual domain that this website lives at. All the rest of the stuff is subdomain. The office.com, while most people look at this and go, hey, this is a legit website, everything else up here is just web server trash, or just it putting stuff like, you always go to like Amazon or YouTube or whatever, and it has like these long URLs of just stuff. Those are usually session information of where it's basically keeping track of where you are in the website and your credentials and a dozen other pieces of information. So we're used to ignoring that. Now in this case, we're going to look at office.com and go, oh yeah, this is legit. You'll notice in this case it's not SSL. I could have set up SSL for this. I just didn't. I just didn't feel like it. It is not hard to do SSL on this. I just did not feel like it for what I'm doing right now. But Office.com, it looks good. But all the stuff is hiding this. So that is the actual domain that this lives on. So people go Office.com, looks good. It is not. So what I did was, at this point, I've got their credentials, and I can leverage this over to a business email compromise. As I kind of showed here, I did a quick segue there, sorry. We've got their credentials. So we go over to Outlook here and actually log in as them. If you see me looking off, I'm actually grabbing the credentials out of my notepad file here, just to make it easier for me. Yeah, no, let's not. So now, as the attacker, I actually am logging into this person's email account. So they don't have 2FA on. This is very easy for me to get in. There are a lot of things you can do with webmail that insurance companies are actually more and more requiring now. to where you have to have 2FA MFA. The idea with that is even if your credentials do get out into the wild through some sort of compromise, or you just provide them to a phishing site like they did here, they with a 2FA it limits the availability of it. So unless someone logs in, like unless they have that code, they can't log in. There are ways of getting that code through things like reverse proxies or what's called SIM cloning, or depends on the method that you're using. So a lot of times you'll use what's called a TOTP, a time-based one-time password. That's like the six-digit code you see. That only works for about a minute. Those are pretty good for this, as long as you don't provide them to someone. So if someone texts you and says, "Hey, I'm from whatever. We need this code to let you log into your site." Never provide that code to anyone because they're trying to get into your stuff. But anyway, I've now logged into this person's Outlook just because they provide their credentials. So I can go through here and look at all of their emails. I can figure out what they do, what this business is in the business of doing, what I think, how much money they are pushing through. So like if I get to like the accounting department or get into an IT department, would be even better because they have the keys to the kingdom, or get into a CEO or something like that who is in a position of authority, so I can leverage those individual sections. So like accounting, I'd want to look at what invoices are flowing, how much money is flowing, bank account details, credit card information. If I get into IT department, I can get credentials, I can get into servers and leverage that towards uh, mostly just whatever I want from there. Realistically, I can pull a lot of details from an IT department account. If I can get to a CEO's account, I can use his position to tell other people to do stuff for me. I tell them send me gift cards because everyone's like, "Oh, CEO." I'm not going to question that. Realistically, your company should have processes in place that say question everything, a zero trust, especially for things of financial value. I mean, there are realistic things like where are we going to dinner or where are we getting lunch from today. That doesn't need questions other than do you want Mexican or whatever. I mean, that doesn't need secondary questions. But $30,000 wire transfer, yeah, that should be questioned. That should be a verbal call to saying, "Hey, boss, Did you request this transfer? And do I know this guy's voice?" Or some sort of secondary or tertiary even uh, approval process. I say I should do this as an accountant. It's like, hey, this request came in from a CEO to transfer this. I need a secondary approval from another person getting eyes on this and the CEO verbally approving it. Maybe say over a certain amount, whatever. But as in going back to the Outlook screen here, the advantage I have with this is I can see what this company is doing. I can use their signatures. I can look at how this person sends emails, so I can use like their backgrounds. I can use their verbiage, their way of saying it. I can target almost spear phishing in this case. I can target their specific customers and vendors. So I'm not just blasting out in the wild and hoping to get someone. I can say, I know you do business with this company. So I can wait until they send an invoice into you, or I can send an invoice to them. And what I actually have seen this happen is an account was compromised in this fashion, like we're seeing here. And when the company sent an invoice to their customer saying we need $30,000 to pay off this whatever they were doing, and then it followed right up with from the attacker, from the person's actual email address saying, here is the wire transfer information for your payment. So the customer looked at this and goes, yeah, this came from you. You sent us an invoice, and then you sent us the payment information, so we sent the money through wire transfer, and it went overseas very quickly. Getting money back from wire transfers is extremely difficult, and the longer it takes, the less likely you are to get it back. So much so that realistically you have hours to pull that money back, even if that. If it's gone for a day, you're probably not getting that money back. That's why you want to protect these things, why you want to really identify and be vigilant. Unfortunately, while it is exhausting to be paranoid, to always be looking for these things, the business effects for what can happen from this sort of attack far outweighs the inconvenience. That's why it's so important to have a good password, to not share that password with anyone, but not share it across accounts. To have 2FA, MFA, to have on your business process side, to have secondary and tertiary approvals, to ask questions, to make sure that this person actually is requesting this. Uh, because yeah, it does take time and it's inconvenient, but losing $500,000 to a scammer, I mean, it's a lot more inconvenient to find a new job. Yeah, I would rather spend 5 seconds going, "Hey boss, did you really approve this?" Then I'll better get my resume out. that's that's a lot harder. No, as we went through this, you can see this was a kind of idealized because I wanted to make sure it worked, but the concepts and the ideas were all legitimate. We used a legitimate in the wild scheme or scam and phishing attack. I did not simulate those. That attack we actually did really happened. And that's how it really would happen in the wild. So always be looking at where does email come from? Does this website really go to where I thought it went? Don't provide your credentials without really checking. And call. Yeah, don't just call like the number on the email. Call the known good number. What I mean by known good number is if you've been doing business with them, you should have their phone number already in like your CRM or in your accounting package or somewhere, or in your cell phone, depending on the size of your business. You should be able to like, yeah, I know this guy's number. I need to call him and say, did you approve this? Did you request this? What it comes down to is all technology in the world fails to inconvenience. So we can do like from an IT company's view, we can have 100 layers between you and an attacker. But if it's inconvenient, people will find a way around that. So you really have to be smarter than the attackers, or at least more vigilant than the attackers, to make it so difficult for them to get at you. That's just not worth their time. They'll move on. So I've rambled a lot here. What it comes down to is this is what an attack really looks like. We saw from the victim's point of view, the attack took maybe a minute. From the attacker's point of view, it took me maybe 2 hours to set that attack up. So 22 minutes can really change your life. So I don't want to sound that so scary, but you should be aware. There should be some concept of this is concerning. I need to keep an eye on this. Anyway, I'll wrap up. Come look up on my clock here. It says I'm coming on 20 minutes on this part of the recording. Keep aware. Keep safe out there. If you have any questions, you can always email me, jwmiller@internetic.net. I am happy to discuss. You can call me, 888-526-1631. I love doing this stuff. I love diving into cybersecurity. If you have questions, we are here to answer them. That's what we're here for. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching.